Right then, welcome back. Today, yes, Ride 5. Now, I know it's rubbish, it's crap, the physics are all wrong, the handling's all crap, the game's unfinished. I still feel that way, but I paid £100 for something and it's just sat doing nothing. Now, I am determined to work it out, but before we start going into it and we have a look at some bobs, 3 laps, Fireblade, Sonoma, just keep an eye on the front wheel. Just keep an eye on the front wheel going into turns and through turns, because I think I might have worked out what's wrong. So, it was all very scrappy and nasty, but we ended up setting a 134, I think, when I stopped flicking about the leaderboards. The leaderboard's awful as well. You flick down, it jumps 1,000 places. It's just not good. 134.591, which was no good. The Fireblade just wasn't very good at all. So I went and bought I had an R1-M in my garage, where I went and threw absolutely everything at it. Ended up with 211 horsepower and 197.8 kilos. Setup wise, do you know what? Not a clue. I've been reading through the little descriptions of what stuff does, and I had to play with a Fireblade. Forget the old 2.8 model, absolutely scrap, doesn't work. Basically, the higher number that you put on things, the faster the bike reacts. Now, the understeer is abhorrent, it is disgusting. The animations when you're going through a turn on the bike, it's almost like countersteer doesn't exist. Now, yeah, it's a game, it's this, I get that. However, the fundamental principles of physics and friction and the way that motorcycles work must exist for it to function as a motorcycle game in the realist sense. For example, Gran Turismo, you turn the steering wheel left, the car goes left. You put the brakes on, turn the steering wheel to the left, and if you exceed the grip limits within the physics model, it will understeer. Same on a motorcycle. The difference is, above 20 miles an hour, 24 miles an hour, whatever speed you want to put on it, countersteer. You don't steer, you don't pull the left-hand bar towards you to go left, you push it away from you. It's all to do with the cohesion of grip and mu factors, and the fact that if you turn the tyre in the opposite way, the friction side on the inside of the tyre is higher, and therefore it gets the bike to fall over into the turn. It's not the easiest thing in the world to explain. It's very difficult to wrap your head round. When, in a previous life, when I was doing the motorcycle instruction for Honda, you just avoided trying to explain it to people who were learning, because it made no sense to them. It just blew their minds, and they spent the next 3 lessons just worrying about the fact they were going to fall off the bike if they pushed the left-hand bar too hard. I just can't wrap my head around the physics model. Anything you do in Ride 4 does not apply to this game whatsoever. There have been a couple of updates. They've sorted out the complete lack of brake pressure when you use ABS. They've sorted out the fact that traction control would just kill the bike dead as soon as you got on the gas. They have actually sorted that out, and it is a little better. I ended up using engine braking 3, ABS 1 and traction control 1 for these laps on the R1. Now, we got down to whatever we got down to, a 133.9 or something. However, the problem with it tracking foul laps still exists. So you don't know whether I'm chasing a 33.9 or I'm chasing a 34.4. I just have no clue. When it comes up with plus or minus whatever tenths of a second, again, there's just no clue. I don't know if I can work it out, because it doesn't give you enough feedback. There's a tiny bit of feedback just before the front tyre lets go, which, whilst we're on the subject of the front tyre letting go, if you watch any replays, do a race, watch a replay. If at any point you do a race and you crash, don't rewind it. Just finish the race, then watch the replay at the point that you crashed. If you lost the front, I guarantee you 99.999% that it would have been positive steering and the bike's just collapsed. It's just the front end of it's just gone off the front of the tyre because there's no contact patch on the floor. The positive steering, the way that the steering works and the way the front tyre and wheel and everything else, the angle, it's just forced it off the floor and that's it. It's just crashed and you're done, and that's the end of it. It's just a bit weird. And I'm not saying that the physical representation of counter steering was there in Ride 4, but it didn't do what this does. It just doesn't seem to work very well. Even going into the settings and turning everything up and then putting a harder, medium or soft front tyre so we should have more grip but it should wear out faster, again, it doesn't really work like that. Weight transfer seems to be something that appears in all the little descriptions of the adjusters constantly. You can work it out and get a quickish time, a fastish line. It is like doable, but like over the top of that crest there, you just get massive understeer. Then you get on the brakes, and it just doesn't want to stop. Now, if you've ridden a motorcycle, It doesn't matter if you've got 20, 25, 30 degrees of lean on and you get on the brakes, it stops, and it stops quite quick. Especially modern bikes with 6-axis IMUs, Bosch, whatever generation ABS systems or whatever else we're using, the bike knows how far over you are, it knows how fast you're stopping, and it can see if the front wheel starts to lock up, and it will modulate the brake pressure for you. So in theory, if you're 45 degrees over on the right hand side and you get on the brakes, the bike will stop you as fast as it possibly can. It just doesn't seem to do that in here. It seems very dependent on the line that you're on. Again, I am happy to prove myself and others to prove me wrong and say these are what the settings that you need to do and bits and bobs, but as per Ride 4, there's very little out there because I don't think people can get their heads around it. So once again, if you want to work it out and you want to know what you're doing, you've got to do it yourself, which is the frustration with all the shithouse comments. You don't know what you're talking about, you're full of shit, that's set up wrong, you don't know what you're doing, it's a good game. Well, it's not, is it? It's not a good game. It's a game, it's not a good motorcycle game. Alright, there's a slight difference. Like, for me, Ride 4 is still streets ahead. Look at all the invalid laps. And those invalid laps are from running on into corners or losing the front. And look how many of those are invalid. There's only, what, 3 clean laps in that entire group. I will keep at it. I will try and work it out. Alright? And if I work it out, I'll do a setup video and we'll go somewhere from there. But I ended up with 132.326. And anything more than 80% difficulty in a race is ridiculous. And I just can't do it. It's impossible. So, because the feeling's not there and the bike setup's not there, they're going through corners 25 miles an hour faster than me. I will work it out. I will. It just might take me a little time.